Hello, everyone. This is Chala, CEO and founder of the Repositioning Expert, coming to you live with another Tuesday tea time. It is the middle of 2025. I am off to a procurement conference. It's the annual WBENC Women Business Enterprise National Council, the big event in New Orleans, and we're expecting a couple of thousand women business owners, and it's going to be a lot of corporations. It's, with the recent changes in the different things that are happening in the US, it's going to be very interesting to see how it's changed and what's happening. But I'm very excited to see all my fellow women business owners, small business owners. We're doing an executive roundtable again with Capital One on Wednesday. So that's going to be fun. So going into another procurement conference, I just thought it was appropriate to take a look at what are some of the corporate buyer trends, because we're going to be meeting a lot of buyers. We're going to be having roundtables with them. We're going to be having one-on-ones. We're going to be meeting them at cocktail parties, and just wanted to see what is happening in the land of corporate buyers. Of course, I'm always in touch with them through various different events that I'm doing, and they're always my sponsors. And of course, I was on the buying side for 20 years before I started my own business. So it is a familiar world. It was my world 24/7. And there are certain changes that have come. And now I navigate my clients through those changes and help them through the ropes to get in front of corporate buyers, because it's still one of the hardest things to do as a small business owner. Let me take a sip and start on the list. It's like the bottom dregs of my protein, hot chocolate. Okay, so these are not big surprises to you. I've been talking about them. I've done separate topics on them. I've written articles about them. I've done my Tuesday Tea Time lives on them. So it's going to be a whole, putting them together all in a nice little bouquet for you, just to refresh you if you yourself are trying to get in front of new corporate clients or corporate buyers, or if you're going to be coming to this conference or any other procurement conference, really. So digital first decision making is the name of the game in any of the recent years, and especially in 2025. So shooting from the hip, from the gut kind of decision making, I'm going to go with this person, or I'm going to go with this purchase versus another, is so old school. It is gone. It is so yesterday. Now, 67% of the buying journey, what they call from inception of the concept of we need something to the actual buying, is done online. So 75% of buyers actually prefer buying themselves online or meeting on Zoom or any other kind of platform than in person. So what is my advice for this is provide digital content to be even in the consideration of the buying journey, because if there's no content, they have nothing to include you in the buying journey. And of course, become the king of Zoom, and become very comfortable with, and have as part of your normal business process, closing online and in these online Zoom rooms or any other platform that you meet. So digital is the name of the game. Number two is the rise of mobile and social media. And for B2B, it's always LinkedIn. In 2025, over 50% of B2B ads, which should tell you where people are spending the money, were on mobile. People are even buying on their mobile. Even if they work for corporations, they are tethered to their mobile. And then as for LinkedIn, which is the main social media, is 84% of actual corporate buyers use LinkedIn. They use it for information gathering. They use it for research. And on the other side of the vendors, 3 out of 4 of their leads come from LinkedIn. So, and I remember doing one of my lives about doing exactly this, that there are very few content creators, or very few people on LinkedIn that are actually creating content, and very few that are creating this kind of content, which is like more engaging because it's live and it's video. So I want you to take a look at, this is my advice, look at your newsletter content in terms of your newsletter on LinkedIn. So what I do is I repurpose this week's conversation topic, which is the Tuesday tea time topic, which is the corporate buyer's trend. I'm going to repurpose it into a newsletter, my newsletter, the Marketing Minute on LinkedIn, but I'm also going to repurpose it in all of my other social media. I'm going to repurpose it in my own personal newsletter for my own personal list. And then make sure that you're one of the few. Why not try a live stream? Why not try a video? The other thing that I love is engage with the engaged. So when I'm putting out my content and people are actually engaging with me, I actually mention them. I like their content. I go and follow them. So engage with the engaged. You're already doing all this work. Why not go the next step and engage with the engaged? That is your target, or who could link you to your target. And then I always say this, like the genuine fawning, and fawning is really like paying compliments and attention to somebody online, versus, just, I used to hire during COVID people offshore to go and like and comment on people's content, and it did nothing because it wasn't genuine. So what I like to do now is, these are actual humans that you've actually met at the events, either your events or their events. And if you're doing a consolidated marketing plan that is targeted, as I always teach and would like to, keep on teaching, of this targeted industry-based vertical marketing, that means you're always going to be in front of the same people, in front of the same circles, and those people are going to refer you to other people, but you've met them in person. That's what it means. So your actual in-person marketing means that you've met them, they've seen you, they've had some form of experience of you, whether sitting next to you, across from you at an event, or actually seeing you speak, or being, at your own event, like my executive roundtables, for example. So those are the people that I actually genuinely fawn over, because then it's genuine. It's not really fawning. It's noticing, admiring, supporting. And when you do it to them, they do it to you, and you become on their radar. So that's my advice with respect to the rise of mobile and LinkedIn. And of course, make sure that all of your content is mobile friendly. I can't even imagine a website not being mobile friendly anymore. But if yours isn't, please take note and fix it. Number 3, corporate buyer trend in 2025 is larger and more complex buyer teams. This is nothing new. There's now average of 7+ decision makers for a company that has between 100 to 500 employees. So it's not even that big, and then even bigger. So major purchases of $1 million+ actually take even more. So 10+ buyers. So what is my advice with respect to this is, ask to have, when you are asked for a quote, instead, you make an offer back to ask to have a co-creation meeting with all of the stakeholders, so that you can lead a meeting that will address all of their concerns, all of their vision, all of the obstacles that they think that there could be internally or externally to the vision. And you can overcome each and every single objection, while you are placing all of their needs and their vision into one scope of work, while you're co-creating this vision for all of them, and aligning this team, that's a huge team, into one vision, so that they've co-created this vision with you, so that you can actually stand behind a price that you give, at least a price range that you can give them in that meeting, in that first meeting, in that room. It does so many great things, this co-creation meeting, instead of just sending in a blind quote when they ask, because 1, you set yourself apart because everybody else is sending a quote. 2, they're just going to look straight at the number and throw it out if that's what they're looking for. So you are now setting yourself apart and competing, and have the ability to overcome their objections in person, live, and fresh while they're there, so that you don't have to wait, and you don't have to call them, and you don't have to set up another meeting to have to overcome their objections that you don't even know what they are. because all they're looking at is a document if you just send it in. So the other advice that I have is, because there are so many stakeholders that are now buying, it's actually good news for you, because if one goes quiet, you can engage with the other one. Or if that one goes quiet, you can engage with another one and another one and another one. And you also have that many more opportunities to reach out to them, to do the cold outreach, to do the first step, because they are all on the same buying team. So any of them could potentially bring you in, and any of them could potentially start the ball rolling or give you some information. So the good news in all of this, yes, it's more complex to have to corral all of these decision makers, and it makes it much longer as a process. But if you don't drag it out yourself by introducing a whole, deadening step of just sending in some paperwork versus getting them into a room and facilitating a co-creation meeting, then you have the potential to engage multiple decision makers at the same time and overcome their objections. Number 4 corporate buyer trend in 2025 is personalization. I have done so many topics about this. 80% of buyers are more likely to buy from you if they have consumed personalized content. And 72% actually expect it from vendors. So what is my advice is, here's how you personalize. You research their pain. In my book, in my world, I want my clients to actually pick one industry at a time to become an expert in. That's what's called super niching. But even if it's just for the one pitch, please do not go in front of them without doing the research to figure out exactly what the pain is that you can help them with, what it's causing, how much it's costing them, what is the consequence of them not overcoming this pain. You need to know all of this before you go in. And then how you do this, and this works really well if you're working on a very specific industry, because then you become an actual expert in that industry, and everybody you work with, you've built a case study around. And they're of the same ilk because they have the same problems, because guess what? They're in the same industry. So I want you to send or present case studies of you helping overcome this challenge that they have. And it's even a bonus if you can personalize your presentation, or even just to knock on the door and open the door to the actual buying officer. Because if there is public information about them, which thanks to social media, there is all over, you can actually use whatever data you collect about the actual purchasing manager that you're one-on-one with, that you're contacting, or your door opener, whoever it is, to actually sway them. So I'm going to give you an example about their personal interests. There was a pitch to a CEO who was a comics fan, and the pitch was in the form of a fake comic book featuring the CEO drawn in as a superhero, and he loved it. They got the meeting. So these are just examples of the ultimate personalization in marketing is called ABM, which is account-based marketing, and they're costly, require a great deal of research, like what I'm telling you, and an enormous amount of creativity. But if you're willing to go to that level of personalization, you will always get the door open. So think about, put on your creative caps and think about how you can make that happen. And number 5 is trust, social proof, and how decisions are now made on trust and social proof. So 57 to 70% buyers are more than halfway through their buying journey before they'll even contact a sales rep. So what does that mean? Your content, first of all, has to be there and has to be about something relevant. So it has to be about their pain and how you've helped solve this pain. And it has to prove as trustworthy social proof that you've done this. And it has to showcase it, and it has to demonstrate it with results and with believable, checkable facts. And so your content must earn their trust. And positive online reviews actually increase sales conversions in B2B by 15%. So imagine how much buyers are looking for either reviews or case studies or some form of proof that you know what you're doing, that you can say, you can do what you say, and that you can help them. And 57% of buyers expect ROI in 3 months. What does that tell you? They need to see that you've already done it. hopefully in 3 months. They need to see that you're able to deliver quick results, because if you look like an expert in their pain, that's what they're looking for. They're looking to shortcut the results instead of trying and failing on their own. So my advice with respect to how to get trust and social proof is really case studies. Have them on your website, have them in your ads, have them in your social posts, have them as your social posts, put them as your newsletter stories. So what I do is I weave them into actual newsletter stories. My blogs, I put them in. I have an actual video channel of, like, a YouTube channel of my testimonials, but in an interview format. So that's really good. Whenever somebody is thinking of hiring me, that's what I send them, and they binge watch it and they feel good. And people rarely ever contact these people, but they're so publicly visible and they're tagged. So they could call them. And, in past days they used to, but it's so funny because nowadays, with the social proof being on reviews and videos, it's just more believable somehow. And then, so the other thing that I really recommend that's worked really well for me is actual past client presence. So current or past client presence in your event. So I often have, sometimes completely by fluke, because I don't always fill them, and I don't always invite them. So sometimes by fluke, I have clients in roundtables. In the past, I've invited them to live launches. I've interviewed them, or they've put in, how it worked out for them, or they have something relevant to say about the teaching that I'm doing at that point. And then people who are thinking of hiring you, like buyers, might ask that client, how did you get over this topic, or how did you get over this hurdle? And then, of course, referral programs, because, trust engenders more clients and more referrals. And past clients are great sources of referral programs, or referral programs with, cross referrals with people that you've worked with as vendors. So they don't have to be your direct clients, but you could have been both serving the same client, but you were working side by side as vendors. And that's another tactic to use trust and to get into corporate buyers' rooms. So I just want to, remind you that the biggest trends in 2025 really is personalization, digitalization. We didn't talk about it, but AI, AI-based data. So people are using AI to cut their data and to do much, much more selective targeting, and digital content. Everything is about the internet, even more so. So I hope that was helpful. And I will tell you, next week, I am going to be at the conference, so I won't be doing a live, but I will catch you up on everything the Tuesday after. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Take care.